this space of energetic openness and creating that within yourself. Because when we're figuring out, when we're forcing, when we're fearful, when we're grasping at things, and sometimes what we grasp at is even just a mindset shift itself. Like, I need to be in belief, we're not creating space for that alignment and clarity and guidance to come through. Now, openness sounds really easy and, simple, and it is, except that we often have to let go of big parts of ourselves that we don't want to in order to be open.
Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. Today, I am sitting down with Lauren Saunders, and we're talking all about navigating pivots with grace and alignment in business, in life, in all of it. Lauren is an artist, a serial entrepreneur, formerly a coach and mentor, and now she has a company called Love and Dots, where she shares her beautiful art with the world. And in this conversation, we talk about everything from awakening to manifesting and really how to create the changes that we want in our life, especially when we are in those places of going through a big pivot. So I know you're going to love everything that Lauren has to talk about. So without further ado, let's welcome Lauren onto the show. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be such a good conversation. So why don't we just start by introducing you?
Yeah, so my name's Lauren Saunders. I'm a serial entrepreneur. My current business is an art business. So I guess, you can call me an artist. And I'm in Collingwood, Ontario, Canada. And yeah, that's who I am. Like I said, I'm an artist currently. However, I started my entrepreneurial journey as a lash artist and then transitioned into course creation and coaching online. And my most recent pivot was one into what I am currently doing. And specifically, I dot paint mandalas. So I have an online business where I sell courses and prints and my original artworks. So kind of niche there, but it all kind of, to me, relates to each other from a space of everything that you're about, which is spirituality and mindset and intuition. That's just like something that I really live my life by. So I'm excited to be here and chat about it today.
Yeah, I love that. And in addition to that, it's like you are your business. For us that are kind of these free spirits, entrepreneurs, the reason you're a serial entrepreneur, if you're like me, is because I grow and change. So you're, as we're going to get into the being in that space of allowing yourself to pivot and shift and change. And as you said, go with your intuition and all of that. It's so cool. So how did you get into like the business coaching world? Because that's what you did right before this last pivot was like being a business coach.
Yeah. Well, so I was actually a high school art teacher in Toronto, I don't know, a decade ago now, I guess, which is crazy. And then on the side of that, because my background is art, I wanted to make some extra money. It was really hard to get full-time work as as a teacher in Toronto and in Ontario at the time. So I started my first business, which, as I said, was doing eyelash extensions from home. And it just kind of blew up. And that was my introduction into actually owning a business. I'd always kind of been entrepreneurial and creative. And as I progressed with that, I really started to get into manifestation and realizing that I could create my life to look however it is that I wanted to. And so that took me into the online space because I wanted scalability in income. I wanted location freedom, especially at the time. And so I started my first business course teaching other lash artists how to grow their income and their clientele. And that just also did very well for me. And over the course of the next few years, it turned into more general business coaching, but from a space of, like I said, mindset, manifestation, intuition. My brand was called The Aligned Entrepreneur. And so it was all about just really honoring yourself, getting your mindset on board. I'm a really big believer in the spirituality side of things, but I also really nerd out on the science of it all, like neuroscience, neuroplasticity, quantum physics. I still do have a course with a friend of mine called the Quantum Creators Course, where we talk all about I've heard you say the nature of reality, like that kind of stuff interests me so much. My approach to business has always been with an understanding that it is our thoughts that create reality. And, you know, that's as empowering as it can be problematic. And I've gone through periods that were very success filled, especially this current chapter, but also periods that were, you know, filled with downfall and struggle and failure because I was so in my head and I was so monitoring my every thought. I think that there's an important balance for people to strike when it comes to manifestation and changing your beliefs, where you understand that you are that powerful, but there's also space for you to be human and successful, or human and worthy and abundant.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I love that. It's so true. And so much of it is we get in our head, whether you have a business or it's just in your life or making more money or, you know, with love. That's what spirit shows me all the time, is it's never an actual problem. It's that we think we are riddled with a million problems. Exactly. So there are very real things like trauma. And that's why me as well, I'm so interested in the brain and the reprogramming. That is real. However, we are truly unlimited beings. And so whether it's this business or that business, or you're working for a corporate job or whatever, you can still create the life that you dream of, and you can, you know, go out and do that. I just love that. It's like aligning a business. I always say that to my clients with businesses. We're creating businesses that align with your life, not the other way around, not something you feel a slave to. Yes, it takes efforting, but when it's aligned, it feels so good. So I love that that you say that. So I would love to hear about the process of, like, you're in this one business, you're doing well, but as I know, with growth and pivoting, you're going to start getting nudges, like something's not working, something, you know, so explain, if you can, that process of maybe the in-between and going into trying to find clarity of what's next, especially business coaching to artists. That's awesome. I want to hear about it.
Well, the way you describe it is very eloquent and beautiful. And unfortunately, my journey was neither of those things in terms of what I now refer to as my chapter of divine redirection. So I was living in Toronto and I had my coaching business, and I really felt on top of the world with it. It had become quite successful for me. I was doing like $20,000, $30,000 a month. This was sort of like, it was actually in 2020. So throughout the beginning of the pandemic and like 2019 as well, I had like my dream gorgeous apartment. I manifested my dream Mercedes car, like living, you know, the high life. And going into 2021, thought, okay, I'm going to scale this to like $1 million, you know, $100,000 months. And a very long story short, I hired a coach to help me do that. And it was just sort of this combination of things that took me from feeling very successful and actually shooting for bigger to having it within even like 6 months, all basically crumble to the ground. And it was putting myself under extreme financial pressure of hiring this, you know, high level coach, but also struggling at that point with the pandemic. I was living alone. It was super locked down here in Ontario. And it was just sort of a series of things that happened where that business went from feeling really good to me to feeling there was so much struggle. And I went through a long period of time where financial scarcity was a lesson that I was learning. That's a nice way of putting it. And just nothing felt aligned anymore. And looking back, I can see that it wasn't meant to. Like, that was not meant to be my forever business. I don't think any business is anyone's forever business, but it was never going to fulfill on what I thought I wanted, or it could have fulfilled on what I thought I wanted. It could never have fulfilled on what I actually wanted, but didn't know yet, which was a life of, you know, a lot more just slowness and peace and, sustainability. And it's like everything during that time changed in terms of who I thought I wanted to be and the life that I wanted to actually live for myself. And so I ended up moving back home because I couldn't afford my fancy lifestyle anymore after a while. And I kind of eased off that business over the course of last year, 2023. And I had just gotten into this new art practice of painting mandalas. It was something I came across on Instagram one day. I was really looking for like a meditation aid, basically, because my nervous system was out of whack from 2 years of just living in so much fight or flight and struggle. And I just started sharing what I was painting online, and it just spoke to my soul in a way that I'd never experienced before. And because of my background in course creation and coaching and entrepreneurship, I knew that something that felt that good had a lot of potential to grow into something, whatever I wanted it to be, right? Because it felt so aligned. And so over the course of the last year and a bit, because it was basically January 2023 that I kind of like started my current art business, and it was like a bridging year. Like I kept making a little bit of money from my coaching business, and that supported me enough, but I was putting my effort into my new business, which is called Love and Dots. So on Instagram, it's all one word, Love and Dots. So since last January, so the last almost a year and a half, it's grown. It's surpassed a full-time income. I've since recently moved out of my parents' place. I've grown an online community of like, we're approaching 200,000 people just by sharing my art videos. I've built courses. I have art prints. I sell the originals when I have them available. And it makes me emotional to talk about because it has felt so good. And I've hustled for sure, but from this place of like, devotion, like so much devotion, so much love for what I get to do. And this business to me feels like nothing I've ever experienced. It feels really sustainable. It feels really effortless. I set it up to be very passive. It's very creative. You know, I used to have vision boards that had Instagram accounts with 100,000 people following. And even though I created content every single day, I only ever lost followers in my last account. Whereas with this, oh man, like I don't even try and people just flock in and find me. And it's like, I've had videos get tens of millions of views without even, really trying for that. So anyways, it's interesting because my last business was called The Aligned Entrepreneur. And I feel like I've just implemented everything that I knew was true about alignment and its capacity to take us with my art business now. And yeah, so I'm really grateful that the old business didn't work out, but I will say that period of about 2 years of like a lot of financial struggle and just emotional struggle with it all was really, really, really difficult. So for anyone that's like in a period of pivoting, whether it is voluntary or not, mine was not, and for a long time because I fought it. I just want to say like, it can feel like you're drowning every second of every day, but you do eventually emerge. And yeah, there's just like, I don't know if I can be inspiration for anyone for starting over even when it feels really, really, because like next week I'm turning 36. It was not easy to like move home with my parents and live there for a year and start over pretty much. Actually, it was worse than starting over because I was in a lot of debt from my business, kind of failing on me. So yeah, anyways, I said long story short, but it wasn't really short.
Yeah, well, that is because you lived it for all those years. So that was a concise breakdown. It's incredible because this is how it works, and sometimes we're going along, and I love to read like in energy, I love to see people's like soul's journey. And so I see like aligned being such a soul assignment for you and discerning your own alignment and coming into alignment and what do I need? And that's going to grow and change. And so the alignment part is part of you and your gifts and what you have to share to the world and your own transformation. But even that's going to change. So the bravery to be like, go with your alignment when aligned entrepreneur doesn't feel aligned anymore. There's like a fun universal irony in that, right? Like, can you be aligned?
My ego and identity fought it hard.
Of course, like, right?
I'm the aligned entrepreneur and I'm so out of alignment. I can't let anybody know.
Yeah. But in the pursuit of your own truth and your own alignment, you got to shift. And that's just another, for everybody, whether it's in business or you're looking for solutions, this is such a great example of how when your energy is, and when I say aligned, I mean like aligned with your authentic truth, aligned with your soul's path, where you're not compromising your integrity or your freedom, or, you're not ignoring that, like, this isn't working and you just keep pushing. It's like you surrender to like what you really want and what feels good and what feels right for you. And then when you get into that place, the strategy comes. And that's something that even when I'm struggling, I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do next. It's like, I know that my job is to get me right and to address the things that don't feel right, where I don't have boundaries or where I'm like leaking all my energy, start to come back to me, start to come back to like what my body needs, what my mind needs. And then the ideas, the inspiration, the people, oh yeah, I learned that thing in that course and that would be the perfect place to implement this. It all comes together.
Yeah.
And that's a great example how you can change, like your audience probably drastically changed. There was probably some that overlapped, followed you from one to the next, but you built something completely from the ground from alignment. So it's just so funny the way it all works.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting. I mean, if there was one thing I would do differently, it's just not fighting it for so long, because that place of surrender that you talk about is the place where all of the magic rushes in. One of the biggest pieces of advice or things I used to coach people around was, I would say, you're trying too hard to figure it out. And in that figuring out energy, there isn't space for all of the guidance in the world that wants to come in. And I did that for myself. Like, I didn't let the guidance come in for almost 2 years. And I think that's for a lot of us because we have to let go big pieces of ourselves. Like, for me to get to a place where I was open to something else meant letting go of like who I thought I was on so many levels, because I had a lot of identity wrapped up in my old business for a whole bunch of inauthentic reasons that I wasn't even aware of. So yeah, that space of alignment. And then it's been so interesting because I see people now on social media and they're talking about what it takes to grow as an artist in 2024. And everything that they say has not been my experience at all. Like, post every day and research the algorithm and use trending audios and make sure your videos are 7 seconds long. I don't do literally any of that, but I didn't tell myself that I needed to. I said to myself, when it came to this art practice and growing an audience around it, I said, this wants to be seen. It's something that is coming through me. And I can trust that. And if there is a certain kind of video or post that I'm supposed to do, it will come through me. I don't have to figure any of it out. And so my experience instead has been like, I post, I don't know, once or twice a week, probably. Sometimes I go longer without, just because of life. And I've grown, this massive audience without any of like the trying energy. And so it's just interesting, people that, and I did this for a long time, that kind of enslave themselves to a certain set of rules around growth, whether that's in love, whether that's in business, it doesn't really matter. And the reality is none of them are true. There are no conditions on us creating what we want, except for the ones that we tell ourselves are true, right? I have to post every day if I want to be seen, or I have to post this kind of content for the algorithm to like me, or I have to say these things if a man is ever going to find me desirable. And it's like, it's literally not, none of that is true, except that we create it as being true in our own reality. But there's always people that are living outside of those conditions and creating unconditionally.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You nailed it. I love that. And it's kind of backing too on, you said so many people are always trying to figure it out too hard and figure out the strategy. So sometimes when I'm like, if I have a client or it's myself going like, what should I do? What should I do? I stop and I go, what must I believe in order to be thinking this way? And it's like that there's one way to do it. This is just the way my head thinks. But it's like, I'm believing right now that there's one way, there's one code, and that's just not what it is. Again, our job is to get ourselves right. And I mean that just nourish, nurture, rest a bit, good food, whatever it is, connect into us. And then that's where the inspiration flows. And I love that you're saying that it's very low effort compared to all the strategy and the hustling. And it's just fascinating.
It's like, I have worked really hard because when I started this business, I view it as like a lifeline that I was desperate for. Like, I didn't want to be stuck at home for years and years. I wanted to, move into this house with my partner that we now live in. So I really worked hard, but I wasn't grasping at anything. It wasn't like, well, maybe I'll try this and hopefully that's the thing that blows everything up. It was like, I know where this is going. I'm open to being led. And when the guidance comes through, I will run at it because I was in a position that allowed me to do that. But if I'd had kids or, a full-time job, then it would have looked differently. So I think people confuse like the idea that alignment equals no action. In most cases, alignment equals more action because you're so clear that it's coming through you, but it's the energy that action is taken from that makes the difference. And I have taken a ton of action from a place of scarcity or trying to figure it out or forcefulness, and it does not work. And then I've taken the same amount of action, tons and tons of action from a place of alignment and openness, and had all of it. Every single thing I've endeavored to do with Love and Dots, it's all been successful. But I wasn't attached to that. I was just trusting where I was being led and showing up for it. Right.
Yeah, totally. I love that because there's inspired action. That's how our manifestation actually connects with us, is through the physical action we take. You can't meditate yourself into, $1 million exclusively, or, I always say, like, you can't manifest a Lamborghini from the couch. Like, at some point, you have to enter a draw. You have to do something. So in the way of business, sometimes it's like a lot of effort. However, when things are done in inspiration, and I know everybody listening knows those things you can do that you get lost in, that you're stoked to do, that you're like, I created a whole course this weekend, like slides, and I did the voiceover, and you get a lot done, but you're stoked. You're not feeling like you want to put a fork in your eye, and you're not feeling like procrastinating because you want to do it. That's the difference, is like, how do you do all these things? Because I'm lit up to do it. Yes. And if I start noticing that I get crunchy and I'm like, I don't want to do this, I'm like, nope, I just want to go in the places that feel so good. And then I'm super productive. So what would you say for people that are in that place, whether it is a huge business shift, pivot, or it's in their personal life, some of those really key points that if you could give yourself advice a few years ago, to help the process, what would you say?
Yeah, well, I've built like whole curriculums around this now because I continued on with my coaching business, like, to support myself in building Love and Dots, but I also have a partnership with a really good friend of mine. And we, as late as like mid last year, have built curriculums. And what we have continuously talked about, and the way that I always think about this, is this space of energetic openness and creating that within yourself. Because when we're figuring out, when we're forcing, when we're fearful, when we're grasping at things, and sometimes what we grasp at is even just a mindset shift itself. Like, I need to be in belief, we're not creating space for that alignment and clarity and guidance to come through. Now, openness sounds really easy and, simple. And it is, except that we often have to let go of big parts of ourselves that we don't want to in order to be open. So for example, if you have a desire for your soulmate relationship, being open means releasing the part of you that's attached to a certain timeline, or that is making it mean something about yourself if you continue to be single, right? Like, I met my boyfriend 2 years ago, and he's absolutely like the one I was always looking for. But I had to get to a place where being open meant letting go of my attachment to a certain timeline and my avoidance of not wanting to be like the single girl anymore, right? Like, go to family events and I was the only single person in our whole family. Like, being open meant being okay with that and doing the work to be okay with that, which was like a lot of self-acceptance, a lot of nervous system regulation, a lot of letting go of what I thought my life was supposed to look like and by when. And when I got to a place where I could be open and okay with where I was at, he just, came right in. But like, getting that took a few years for me of like, I didn't want to let go of the timeline and all of the like attachments that I had to that looking a certain way. Right. So openness, it is simple, but it takes us looking at the parts of ourselves that we identify with and find safety in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's like, am I reacting to being single, or am I genuinely open to love? And you have to look at those ways where you crunch yourself off, because you might be on all the dating apps and feeling like, what, I'm doing all the stuff. But that's more subtle energy where you're like, nobody will ever love me, or there's no good men or women out there, like all these default thoughts. Those are causing a non-openness on an energetic level.
Well, and sometimes it's just a moment by moment shifting. So like, I've been doing this practice or this mindset work in my relationship with my body, which I've done a lot of work on over the years, but it's often taken a backseat to business. Unfortunately, that is often how it is. But it's little things like when I have a closed off thought about a certain food that I'm currently eating, right? Bunch of chips or whatever. And I'm in my head there's like an old program that wants to make that wrong and close me off to being open. So it's like, if my desire is to feel amazing in my body, having a thought like I can't eat chips and be in my ideal, most vibrant body, that's closed. I'm closing myself off to the two existing together. A more open thought is I trust my body and what it calls me to consume, and I can be intuitive about this, and I get to, feel amazing about myself no matter what, or like something like that. That's an open thought, right? But so it's like just a moment by moment, opening up, choosing a thought that feels open as opposed to close. And sometimes there's big things we have to reprogram or let go of or find safety around in order for that to even be possible.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, especially with the judgment. We judge ourselves. And I came from eating disorder, and then I actually did nutrition and intuitive eating coaching that was my first business. So I hear you on that. And even it's not moral, it's not right or wrong. It's useful information. Like maybe you're just looking for comfort, and maybe chips right now hit the spot and move on. We don't need to guilt ourselves, but it runs deep. It really runs deep in a lot of women and a lot of people in general. And yeah, you're right. It's just that like, what's something more loving? And I like to say, no matter what I do or don't do, I love and accept myself anyway. And I say that to myself. I've said it to myself bajillions of times. No matter what I do or don't do, I love and accept myself anyway. We're not expected to be perfect. And even so, why can't perfect involve chips and chocolate?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on.
Exactly. Or why can't your perfect relationship involve having anxiety or a fear of rejection? Like I used to have such a condition that said, I can't any longer fear rejection if I want the relationship of my dreams, because in my fear of rejection, I'm going to create the rejection.
Right.
And I worked for years to try and heal that. And I made a lot of progress, but it's still within me. Like I still seize up around the feeling of being rejected, not necessarily by my boyfriend, but just in general, right? As a business owner, we're constantly potentially being like not chosen, or our products or whatever. It was actually in letting it be okay that sometimes I fear rejection, that again, it became a non-issue. And so it's in all cases, it's about being softer with ourselves and letting there be space to be human, and not letting those things that come up, rejection, chips, whatever, mean that we can't or close ourselves off to having what it is that we want.
Absolutely. I love that. I was thinking too, when you were talking about the pivot into a business based in art, how deep the starving artist narrative is. And the fact that you could be like, within this amount of time, I'm already like, living comfortably and selling things. And it's like, way to bash through that. So either you didn't have that deeply ingrained, or you had to massively move through that. Cause that's another place where we could not be open to what's next. Because we're like, oh, nobody buys art. Yes, so we do.
Because I have planned out entire courses and even a podcast called The Thriving Artist, or something with that, because for that exact reason. To answer your question, I think with all of the work that I did coming into this business, I didn't have that, because I knew how niches especially could be successfully monetized. So because of everything that my coaching business taught me, I worked with like a lot of people, and, I've seen crazy niches be really successfully monetized. I came into this and all I saw was opportunity, right? But also I've always been really conscious of who I follow. So I immediately started following other artists who were like killing it with selling art prints and like, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, even as an artist. So because I did have this belief that said you can't make a lot of money selling the artwork side of it. And I proved that wrong by choosing who I was following and what they were up to, right? But that definitely runs deep, I think, for a whole bunch of reasons. I think artists are the lifeline of our society. Without artists, we don't have music, we don't have movies, we don't have any of the things that we love the absolute most. And there's probably reasons as to why they are suppressed. The creativity in all of us is suppressed, right? And I did believe if you're going to be a full-time artist, you're going to struggle. And that was where I was like, but I could be an artist who creates courses, and course creators do really well or can.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's so great because it does. It holds a lot of people back. And who would buy this? And then it stifles our creativity and we doubt our gifts and all, that old thing. I actually had a client way back. She's been a guest on the show. Shout out to Andrea if you still listen. But she, in her journey of sobriety, when she decided to get sober, she immediately found dot art. And we worked together maybe, I forget, I think she was coming up on like her year. And she just turned to dot art, and it was exactly that. She put on meditation music or something positive. She would lose herself for hours when friends are like wanting to go out. She just did dot art, and then she started inspiring other people. I don't know if she turned it into a business, but she sold her art. People started really wanting it because it was so beautiful. And all of a sudden she's like, this came out of nowhere. Funny that it's also the dot art, and it was mandalas. It was just so stunning and meditative. And that's also a good example of how your business can be thriving for you. Like my whole business is self-growth, spirituality, awakening, because that's who I am. So it's cool that you do something that you love to do and then make it profitable. So I do have a question here. I do have a lot of clients that come and are in the process of like, I don't know 100% what I want to do. With your business experience and your personal experience, when someone does know they want to start an online business and helping people and that kind of thing, do you have any words of wisdom of even like where to start, or just even belief in themselves, whatever it is? That's such a fresh place when you want to start, but you don't quite know where to go.
Well, so I always encourage people to start with setting an intention and then opening yourself up to the answer. So again, like if you don't know what you want your niche to be or what your business looks like, be in the intention that you're going to be led to the answer of that. And that's been my experience in every single thing that I've ever done. Is it's like, I desire, even in my coaching business, I was like, I desire to feel like this is easy. I desire time freedom. I desire a quieter, slower life than I previously thought I wanted. And the means, made itself known to me inside of it would have happened a lot sooner if I'd been open to it. So that's the first thing. It is absolutely imperative. Probably the number one practice that I would assign I assign it to anyone that wants to accomplish anything in their life, but especially business owners, is a self-talk practice where you are regularly arguing or just reminding yourself of everything that makes you amazing. And it's really sad how difficult this is, especially for women. Like if I'll say, like, for example, Talia, I'm considering hiring you as a coach. Tell me 3 reasons why I should choose you over somebody else. And your ability to answer that and answer that quickly and succinctly tells me everything that I need to know about where you're at in your belief about yourself. Because the people who are doing well, it's very clear to them. They know those answers. They've practiced them. The people who are struggling and either they're not getting the clients or not moving forward in business or don't know where they need to go next, they can't answer it because it's not what is neurologically familiar for them. So a practice of self-talk where you're like, people love my frickin' art, or maybe you don't even know what your product is yet. I know that I can help people because I'm really committed. I pay attention to detail. I actually care about people and their experience in working or buying from me. On and on and on. Like I have done so much of this practice where to someone who didn't get it, it would sound like I was the most egotistical person ever. But the reality is I'm just very familiar and practiced in what my strengths are. And I didn't used to be like that. I used to be someone that really questioned herself and felt insecure and comparison and imposter syndrome and blah, blah, blah. And, I still have some of that at times. But anyway, so that would be like my number one thing. Tangibly, the niches that we do really well in, and niche, there's a lot of people that don't niche down and have big successful businesses. So I don't want to create that as like a condition for anyone, but I do think it can make it a lot easier early on in your business if you have a clear space that you are wanting to create within. I used to have a phrase called your rich niche. And the idea behind it was just you are within the niche as a business owner in whatever capacity that you believe in yourself within, or that you can really take up space confidently within. So when I came into Mandalas, one of the reasons I knew it was going to be successful was because I have such an identity of artist and art teacher, because that's what I used to do, right? I I just knew, I've always been really good with fine detail work as well. Like I just knew that this was a space where I honestly could play main character in my own life within this niche. But I've done it before with like lashes. That was another example when I started creating courses for lash artists. I was like, I've done this, you know, I've built the business. I know how to attract and keep the clients. I am someone that can teach this to people. And I think what too many people do when it comes to creating, especially online businesses, is they look to what has worked for others and they think that's what people are buying. But the thing is that what works for another works for them because they believe it will work for them. What will work for you is the thing that you can, you know, get most of your confidence behind. You don't have to be, you know, superhuman about it. But if you can be like, confidently say to yourself, I have value to offer within that niche or on that topic, or I've done that and I know that I could help someone else do it. That is worlds away in terms of the potential that it has than like, oh, I think people like to talk about manifestation and I love it. So like, I'll make a course, but you're questioning in the meantime, you know, your own ability. That energy is not going to be magnetic for people. And you can build it, but in my experience, it's a lot easier to start from scratch with something you already have that confidence in, even if it's something you're still working to build on.
I love that. I'm so glad I asked. What a refreshing answer and so helpful. It's so true. All those things. And I love that. And that's what I always think of too. When I get in my head, I'm like, what do I just know in my sleep? I live, breathe, like, cause there's areas that I'm really passionate about, but like you said, it's not main character. It's like deep seeker. But then there's other areas where I'm like, super confident. Like I have literally overcome this. I have literally spent over a decade doing this. And I love that with clients too. And anyone that's really resonating with this, just thinking to yourself, what have I genuinely overcome? Even if it's like, I used to not love myself and now I know what it means to truly love myself. That's huge. There's so many people that need to learn how to love themselves and what that looks like. So really don't underestimate what you've been through and how much you've learned, whether it's through courses and education that's formal or it's your hard knock life experience. Like it's so valuable to others and you can build on it too. You can always build skills. You can always take trainings and upgrade as you feel you need to. I absolutely love this. So is there anything left unsaid when it comes to not being afraid to pivot, being brave, manifesting your dream life, starting a business, whatever you feel called to say? What is there anything left that you want to say?
I think one of the things I've been asked similar questions on other podcasts I've been on. And I often leave people with like just an encouragement to be light and explorative about things, because even in the conversation we were just having about like choosing a topic or a niche, have fun, like play. Like we make things so serious and we think we need to conquer the world in order to like, you know, I'm starting a new business. Like that's a big deal. I got to go all in. And we put all of this pressure on things. And I mean, I was living at my parents' place with not nearly enough money with a business that was really struggling. And I still knew the importance of letting my current art business and my practice that it's built around feel playful and feel fun and feel fulfilling. And there was times when I was like, yeah, but look, I need to make money. So what the heck am I doing spending 10 hours a day painting? Like I had those thoughts, but I would come back to like, I am honoring how good this makes me feel. And if we could just be more like, I've built many businesses. I've also coached thousands of people around the world in terms of their businesses. And what I can confidently say is that it is the people who are playful about things that like have it really, really work. And that's true for any area of our life. Like being playful in a relationship or a potential relationship is so much different than like, is he my husband? And if he's not, then what am I doing? And like, I need the ring on the finger, and like projecting all of that energy in any area of our life. It's a, for lack of a better word, a very repelling energy. So we go into our businesses, we go into dating scenarios, we go into our bodies and our journey with our bodies with this space of like, I need this or else, or this has to be everything or else. And from the get-go, we kind of screw ourselves over because that energy, there's no space in it. So if you can get yourself to a place where you're having fun with something, business should be fun. It's the times when I've had the most fun, or been creating courses with friends of mine, or I'm painting. Like all of those times are times when things have been expansive, times when I was like, I have a business and it needs to work. So I'd better put in the right strategy and I need to figure out what that is. And I'm going to put up Facebook ads, even though I hate Facebook. Those are times when my income has actively gone down, when I've actually been trying to do the things you need to do. It's all about how you feel about things. So be lighthearted, be explorative, be willing to discover, be willing to like trial and error. We need to not be so serious about things. And I know it sounds sort of morbid, but I always have thought, one day me and everybody that I know is gonna die. And it's not even that long from now, like I say that from like a very empowered place of like, what the heck does this matter? Why are we so weird and significant about things? Like we're on a big rock. We got to chill more. You'll receive in abundance. I promise.
It's so true. I love that. And when you're playing, other people take notice. It is magnetic. As you said, when someone's laughing, laughter is contagious. Your good vibes are contagious. And I've found that exactly. Even the podcast, I started it like out of pure, like, oh my goodness, this is so fun. I have to do this. And it's been almost 4 years and it's like almost 200,000 downloads in all these countries and all this shit that like way exceeded my expectations. It wasn't goal driven and I have to get to this many downloads. And I had no expectation. It was like, this feels natural and fun. These conversations are fun. People like listen. And so it's, just letting yourself have fun. I think that's so playful. And I just love that. So helpful. So where can we find you? You mentioned the Instagram and you mentioned some of your courses and stuff. Where can we, I'll put everything in the show notes, but where can we guide people to come find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at loveanddots. Just all one word. And then I have my website, which is loveanddots.com. My older courses that were for my coaching business and they are actually available, but I don't have the website up anymore because I haven't been using it. And I have like a Shopify site with my art prints, but like Instagram is the best place. That's where everything is linked. It's pretty easy to find things from there.
Awesome. I love it. I'll definitely put that below. Make sure to follow Lauren and thank you again for being here today.
Thank you so much, Talia.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode on the Awakening Her podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation between me and my guest. And if you did, we would love to hear from you. Come find us on Instagram. All the links are below in the show notes. Take a screenshot that you're listening to this episode, sharing your takeaways or your enthusiasm for the show. Tag us both over on Instagram. And if you do that, I will send you a free gift. I really do hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I will see you in the next episode.